Hi, my name is Jasmeet Arora, and I'm a junior.
I'm John Horrigan, and I'm also a junior.
We came up with this project when we were in AP chemistry class. We were working on precipitation reactions, and our chemistry teacher used an example of dissolving metals as an example for how we could precipitate things out of the water. And he said that they were really dangerous, and the only way we could get them out of the water is to precipitate them. So we decided to do some more research on that since we were already learning about precipitation reactions and see if we could come up with anything to precipitate heavy metals out of the water.
So we did some research and we found that heavy metals are very poisonous even at low concentrations. So they're a threat as soon as they enter an environment, and also they bioaccumulate, which means that once they're in an ecosystem they don't leave. So if they were in an organism they would stay inside it, and it can even go up the food chain, so that we as humans are taking negative effects because of these heavy metals in the water. And there are other methods of precipitating the heavy metals out of the water, however none of them are either cost effective or very efficient. The current method being used is the caustic method, however it leaves the water very acidic afterwards, which is almost equally detrimental as when the heavy metals were inside the water.
There is one method that is both cost effective and allegedly efficient. There was one study being done on this mineral called Toumaline. It's a semi-precious crystal. We don't have it with us right now, but we did. And it's a silicate mineral. And that study showed that Toumaline was able to precipitate lead ions out of the water. So we decided that we would replicate that experiment as well as add our own twist, where we would use electromagnetic radiation to catalyze the experiment, to catalyze the reaction to make it go faster, basically.
So we hypothesized that tourmaline would be effective as a method of precipitating lead out of solutions, and we also believe that infrared waves would be the best catalyst for the reaction, because tourmaline is known to emit far infrared waves under certain circumstances, so we thought there may be a connection between the two.
Our independent variables are the amount of time that we allow the reaction to go forth and the type of radiation that we expose the reaction to. And our dependent variable is the concentration of lead that was remaining in the solution after the reaction.
So, in order to conduct this experiment, we prepared 4 groups of 5 beakers. In 4 of the groups we had a lead nitrate solution, and in the last group we had just water. And then we took 4 similarly sized boxes and lined them with aluminum foil to keep most of the electromagnetic radiation inside the box. In the first box we added no additional electromagnetic radiation, exposing it only to visible light. In the second box we had a radio emitting radio waves. In the third box we had 2 cell phones in a call with each other emitting microwaves. And in the fourth box we had 2 Nintendo Wii sensor bars emitting infrared waves.
I'd like to point out that the entire experiment was done at home, so we didn't really have lab equipment or anything. We had to use our own materials, our own procedure, and so we didn't really have the equipment that could be really accurate or precise, so we were using radios and cell phones and things like that.
So we placed 1 group in each of the boxes and then placed tourmaline in each of the beakers to start the reaction, and we would remove 1 solution from each box at 30-minute intervals over a span of 2 hours, and then for each solution we performed qualitative analysis to find out how much lead was remaining in the solution.
For a qualitative analysis, we took a small part of the solution into a test tube and we added a few drops of hydrochloric acid, and immediately a white precipitate formed. We took the mass of the precipitate in the test tube and found the concentration of the remaining lead in the solution.
So the reason we had to take the amount precipitated indirectly by finding how much remained in the solution was because tourmaline, in the way it works, the lead precipitate sticks to the surface of the tourmaline, so we can't measure how much was precipitated. We have to find out what remained in the solution, then from that we can find out how much was precipitated. So our results showed a downward trend in the amount left in the solution, the amount of lead, and this graph shows that the amount of precipitate increased over time, and on average the average amount precipitated was 77% of the lead, and for all of the groups, at least 50% was precipitated.
So we did find out that the tourmaline was successful in precipitating the lead, which was one of our main goals. However, we found that the electromagnetic radiation had no significant effect. Although there were differences, they were negligible and probably due to error. Another thing is that after 2 hours, the amount precipitated decreased. So we're thinking that that's because as the reaction goes to equilibrium, there might be a little bit of fluctuation. However, the fluctuation is normally insignificant. So we're thinking that it might be that the surface area of the tourmaline was less in the 2-hour group than in the rest of the group.
So other sources of error were that the equipment we used only went to 3 significant figures, so it could have been that it was not precise enough. Also, because we didn't have the equipment we wanted, we couldn't completely dry the precipitate, so it was a little bit moist when we measured it, and that water added a little bit extra weight. And also we had to take the mass indirectly. We couldn't get the precipitate.
Another thing we do is give more electromagnetic radiation at a higher frequency so that we can increase the amount of energy being given. And the last thing is that we would crush the tourmaline so that there would be more surface area, as also an equal amount of surface area for each group.
And so in conclusion, our hypothesis was half supported, and that tourmaline did prove to be a very efficient method for precipitating lead and from the solutions, and it was also half rejected, and that electromagnetic radiation did not, or at least the frequencies that we tested it, did not show any significant effect.